Hello, happy Friday, everyone. Tonight you can see that I am joined by a special guest, Mr. Wayne Seden. Thank you very much for coming on, young man. How are you?
I'm quite flattered that you called me young man, but you know. I'm good, thank you very much.
Not in a
Good,
way.
Right, I'm just going to share that out, guys. So you talk among yourselves.
Right, like we do.
Yeah.
I'm just glad to be out at dungeon for a bit.
Yeah. Well,
Listen, assholes, I adopted you. Didn't I adopt you?
I escaped last week and done a runner, but there you go.
So what have you been up to this week then, Wayne?
I've been doing all sorts this week. I started off last weekend with I was invited as a guest to Landguard Fort in Felixstowe.
Right.
As a guest with Paracom. Quite an interesting place, and it's always been on my bucket list. And I've been investigating for nearly 40 years now. And
me too.
I have never been to Landguard Fort, and it's only up the road from me. It's less than an hour's drive away, and I'd never been there. So, of course, I jumped at the opportunity, and I was not disappointed. It's an amazing place, even though for half the night it was daylight.
What activity is there? Is there any good activity?
Well, let's put it this way: in the guard room, we were told to F off and get out by an unknown force. We had one of the directional REM pods sitting on the guard room table, and we'd set it up, we'd switched it on, and we walked out of the guard room, and we were standing outside looking in through the window, and the REM pod just went absolutely bananas. It was going in all directions as if something was walking around the table, beeping away like crazy, and there was nobody in there. We had to have been about 15 to 20 feet away from the REM pod, so there's no way it could have gone off. We then went back in, we put the REM pod down in the prison cell, and we weren't getting much activity. And Mark, who I was with, he turned around and he said, use your rank and try and get them to come forward. I used to be in the Royal Air Force.
Yeah.
So I turned around and I went, Corporal Seden, K84200355. Will all prisoners please come forward for inspection? And straight away, there was this funny breathing noise. And then on the EVP that we were doing, we were recording, when we played it back, it told us to F off.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, fair enough.
Was Mr. W with you? Because he gets told to F off quite a lot.
But it was great. I mean, and also one thing I couldn't understand. We had Penny G. Morgan with us, and a lovely lady. First time I'd met her, I'd known her for a while through Facebook. Yeah. And we were upstairs in the officers' quarters, and we were calling out. Not much was happening, and we'd got the good old cat balls out, dotted around the room. And for some unknown reason, Penny just turned around and said, is Wing Commander Guy Gibson here? And all of a sudden, this cat ball started flashing for no reason. So we moved the cat ball on top of this old dress, and we carried on asking about Guy Gibson. And every time we mentioned his name, this cat ball flashed. If we talked about anybody else, nothing. And I'm like, but that's not making much sense, because Landguard Fort was an army unit, not an Air Force unit.
Yeah, I've heard that guy mentioned at Bimbrook before, and we've had responses. So I don't know where he will be this.
Well, the thing is, the only thing I can think of is possibly that after the Dam Busters raid, which was declared a success, Guy Gibson may have gone on a tour of units to boost morale. Yeah, because obviously the Americans and the British troops used to do that, didn't they? They used to send somebody off out to help boost morale. And maybe he had visited, but there was no record of him ever going there. And the weirdest thing that happened that night, which still got me stumped, we were in the ammunition tunnels, and there's a long corridor with a series of ammunition rooms. And we'd all taken individual slots. So we were doing lone vigils in the pitch black. And I'm sitting in this room and I could see these, to me, they look like 4 silhouettes standing right in front of me. So I knew it weren't peripheral vision because they were right in front of me and they didn't move when I turned my head. They stayed where they were. And then I was sort of getting a bit freaked out by it. And then one of the ladies that was sitting in the corridor, she claimed she got touched by something and it scared her that much she had to leave. So she left. I then moved from the far end of the ammunition room up to the door where the corridor was. And I looked out the window, this little window, and I could see someone standing in the window. And I'm like, that's the courtyard. I can't see out into the courtyard, but I can see this silhouette. So I've gone walking up to the window. I've peered through the window. Can't see nothing. It's pitch black. So I called out and I said, is anybody able to see out of these windows? Because that should be the courtyard, shouldn't it? And they went, well, yeah, why? What are you seeing? I said, someone keeps walking backwards and forwards past this window. I'm like, can't do. And then Penny came in and she said, you can't, that's a lighting corridor. So I'm like, well, I ain't got a clue what you're talking about. Can you please explain? She said, well, obviously, in the days of gunpowder, you couldn't have naked flames inside the room. So you had holes in the walls with a sheet of glass or something over the top, and they would put a candle or a lamp in this little hole, and someone would be responsible for going along the corridor to make sure that the oil lamps or the candles were still burning. She said, but it's only a narrow corridor. And I went, but I'm seeing more than one person going backwards and forwards. There'll be 1 second, there'll be 2 people. Then there'd be 1 person. Then be another 2 people go back the other way. Then they'd turn around and go back again. I said, how is that happening? I thought that was the courtyard. We ended up leaving the room, going down into this corridor, which was cordoned off. You weren't allowed to go down there. And when I looked, I couldn't even fit down there. It was so narrow that I could not walk down there without rubbing my shoulders against the walls. And Penny walks down there and she stands in front of the window that I was looking through. And I went, whoever it was your height. I said, but someone was definitely standing there and walking backwards and forwards past that window. You see,
they would get anywhere for a smoke back in the day. And maybe were smokers, to be as daft as it sounds. I've had that in a factory, a brewery, believe it or not, and there were a gantry outside window, but it was 3 stories up.
Yeah.
And from outside, it didn't look like there was anything whatsoever. But from inside, you could see these people walking across gantry. As it turned out, they were real people. There were another group in building with us, but it was scary at the time, and they were outside having a smoke. So that's what maybe just clicked with that.
I'm going to quickly run through some highs. Hi, Joanne. Joanne's joining us. Nigel's joining us from the North Pole. Hey, Mort. Hey, Sarah Louise. Hey, Nettie. Hey, Rita. Irene saying, Wayne, hi, Wayne. It's 4 a.m. and I stayed awake to watch your podcast.
Wow.
Hey, AJ Cook. Hey, Scott. Jeremy York. And that is pretty much it. So that are you sensitive, Wayne? Like, have you got psychic? Have you got psychic abilities?
People are saying I do, but I choose not to use them unless I really, really need to. I can walk into a place and I know if there's an energy there.
Yeah.
I also know whether it's good or bad. It must be about a month ago. I'm looking at Ellen like she knows. We were down at Kelvin and Hatch Nuclear Bunker, and we were filming for Truth Beyond Paranormal, and we were in this computer room, and we had this dark energy moving about, and we'd already allowed an energy there that didn't want to be there. He wanted to be with his family, and it was an old RAF airman. And we are led to believe through using the dowsing rods that he He was actually bludgeoned and then thrown downstairs to make it look like a suicide. And it was a nurse that did it. And
Wow.
we'd had reports, and I'd had reports in the past of a dark energy in the medical area at Kelvedon Hatch. And we weren't too happy about this dark energy because you felt it all over the place. We'd gone into the medical centre later on, and my partner Ellen was doing the dowsing rods, and she was sitting on the chair, and she felt a pressure on her shoulder, and it was pushing down really hard. And for some unknown reason, and I don't understand why or how it came about, but I've got a spirit attached to me apparently from a previous life. Apparently I was a soldier in the British Expeditionary Force, and I died in Dunkirk. And when I moved out of my parents' home into my sister's house, things were going on in the house, and it turned out to be my wife from back then.
Oh, here's the notorious Nickhead. You get that to Nickhead.
That was Jeremy's idea, not mine. Good to see you again, Wayne.
Hey, Eric. Hey, Lauren.
What's going on, Lauren?
So yeah, we had apparently the spirit that was there was my wife from back then, but for some unknown reason in that medical room, I just turned around and went, Joanne, we need your help to remove this negative energy from this area. And straight away, the pressure lifted off of Ellen's shoulder and everything changed. The atmosphere felt differently. And everybody had said during the night, you could smell antiseptic. You could smell TCP all through the night. As soon as that energy had gone, the smell of TCP disappeared.
Do you think your wife in her past life was jealous of Ellen?
No, she likes Ellen. And she likes all four of the kids.
Oh.
It's strange because she
Dad.
She lets me know when she's about. I get an aching sensation right at the top of my neck.
Oh wow!
So a pain in the neck then, Wayne.
Yeah, a bit like But we also smell Parma violets.
Oh.
Nobody in this house eats Parma violets. We don't have Parma violets in this house. Yet every time she's about, we smell Parma violets.
Wow.
Well, that's a sign of an enlightened soul. Certain tastes and smells connect with different types of entity, and Parma violets is well known for angels.
Yep. So I'm not too keen on the idea of being sensitive or going into the mediumship side of things, because I'd like to find answers, but I would like to find answers the proper way, the scientific way, rather than rely on the spiritual side of things. Because I've seen and heard so much over my years that I would argue anybody that turns around to me and says there's no thing as ghosts, I would argue till I was blue in the face that there are.
Oh yeah, me too.
You know, so
but sometimes you've got to wait. Sometimes you've got to literally embrace that gift, because there is no true scientific explanations at the moment.
No.
So if you do it with conviction, I don't see there's a problem with calling it paranormal in paranormal terms. But
I mean, it was like that while we were filming. You know, everybody, the whole team was there, and we had 3 guests there on the night as well. And all of the team and the guests were completely baffled by the fact that I just turned around and said, Joanne, we need your help to remove this entity. Can you get rid of her from this room? And within seconds, the room completely changed. The atmosphere felt different. The smell of anesthetic, all that disappeared. And everything felt positive again. And it was bizarre because that's the first time I've ever had to call on her to do something.
Well, there's a first time for
Irene,
everything.
Irene's saying, I was watching an investigation of some Air Force bunkers in the UK and the spirits didn't want to speak into any device. And I was relaying messages on that chat, but everyone called me a phony, so I quit watching it and I got annoyed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're always going to get the odd idiot gets in on a live feed that is quite prepared to sort of say things like that. And unfortunately, that's then going to be a case of down to the mods and the admins that are overseeing it to say, well, see you later.
I've had that happen to me a couple of times in the past. So I know exactly, how Irene is feeling on that.
It's difficult.
Bride doesn't have a top on tonight. I think he thinks he's on the catwalk. Hey Laura. Hey Gary Fields. I hope you are both well.
Hi, Gary.
But yeah, it's quite a shame, and that's why most people are put off putting any work up or putting any pictures up, because I had seen this group during the week that had put a post up saying that it put this picture up as Naked Bride tonight. So I think this team put up a bit of post that they had done, and people were slagging their picture, saying it was all photoshopped and things like that. And I said, with the best worldly terms, all investigators try to put stuff up in it. You could have the best evidence in the world, and you will always have people turn around and say to you, "That's photoshopped" or "That's fake."
Yeah.
And the most debate.
That's the biggest problem today is AI. It's so real. It is so real. What's real and what's not?
I think as well that it is a big problem, like you say, with the likes of AI and computer technology now. The computer technology now is getting so advanced. I mean, all you got to do is look at the latest games consoles. The graphics on them are so good, and if you've got a PC that's powerful enough, you can literally almost get a like-for-like picture. So you've got to know how to do it. I don't know how to do that sort of thing using Photoshop. I just do the basic stuff on my iPad, and that's it. But you can tell that whether something's been put on there or not. And so far, I've got one picture that I've shown all sorts of people, including Kodak and Fujifilm, and they have said that the picture I have taken, whatever it is that is there, is definitely there.
Yeah.
There's no fakery, no shop, and it's been certified. And it was when I was at Parafest 2021 up at Church Farm, Skegness. We'd spent the day doing all the talks and everything, and then did an evening investigating. But during the day, we'd gone into the main farmhouse, and as it came out with Mark Manley, I turned around and took a photo of this hexagonal summer house. And standing in the middle of the summer house, which was locked and the padlock was on the outside of the door, was a black figure standing inside the summer house. Jacqueline Dixon and Mark Manley came over to Mark Dudley came over towards us. So I showed them the picture, and they went, "That's definitely there." And we all walked over to the summer house. We checked all around it. There was no other way in, but that black shadow was definitely there on the picture, but not there when we got close to it. And nobody's been able to answer to it.
But unfortunately, as I say, things have moved on that much that the only real way to say that it's real and it's being examined is with the originally analog cameras.
Yeah.
Because things can be messed with, and they can be quite well done as well.
Yeah. The problem is, though, when you manipulate a picture via a computer, it leaves a digital imprint. And anybody that knows how to use a computer and break that file up, soon as they look down at the codex of that file, they'll see whether it's been altered in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
that's what Fujifilm and Kodak now do with digital pictures. They look at that imprint and they say, well, that has been altered, or something's been added to it, something's been moved out of the place, it's been altered slightly. Like you can with, you take a picture, and one of the first things you get to do before you save it is edit it.
Yep.
And you can change the filters and things like that on it.
Right.
But see, as soon as you use one of those filters, it leaves the digital imprint. So if you were to take that to somebody, they'd look it up and they go, "You've altered it."
Yeah.
Oh my God. Terry says the whole situation is dependent on fact getting the unknown, known getting fact that can be verified. Often I see with teams experience of emotions which are not ready available.
With anything like you, we go with mediums and that, you have to back everything up, even the medium.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, it's a constant aggro, to be honest, because you've even if you do a public event, you'll always get one person there that's quite happy to sort of poo-poo what you're doing. And you're sitting there going, me and my team, what we do is we tell the guests, right, you're going to go there, you're going to go there. We're just going to be standing in the background. You're the ones doing the investigation. We're not going to do nothing. We're just going to make sure you're all right and make sure it's done properly. If you get into any difficulties or you don't know what to do, then you can come to us and we will assist you, but we will not get involved until that point. And 9 times out of 10, they're fine. It's always the ones that are skeptical to start off with and don't believe in it and think it's all a load of garbage that end up getting the problems, and you have to step in.
Yeah,
they do, and most of them do it on purpose.
And that's why I say, why do people that are skeptic come along to these events? It's good to have that bit of skepticism, but I can remember years ago with my first team, we went to this hotel, and it was my first ever investigation. It will always stick in my mind. And we taken along 2 of the workers with the second time, the night investigation. And one of them was, "Oh, no, I don't believe this. Oh, no, this doesn't happen." And we went into this part of the hotel, into one of the rooms. Beautiful room, really was a beautiful room. And hey, Robert, and we did a EVP, and the guy that the team leader, the owner of the group, had turned around and said, "Can you name one of the boys that are standing there?" And it came back with his name, and I have never seen somebody turn auto chalk white. But the guy's jaw just was like, did that just say my name? And we played it back, and it was as clear as anything. And by the time we went round and did everything, and I had down the keys, he said to me, "Did that really say my name?" And I was like, "Yeah, you heard it. You heard it for yourself. We didn't do nothing. You've heard it for yourself." And he was like that. I actually think I believe it now. He says, I'm going to be really honest. He says, I was very, very sceptical and thought this was a load of nonsense. He says, until that actually said my name. I said, never knock it until you try it.
Yeah. We had a private case once where the husband was a skeptic, and he had his son from a previous marriage because his ex-wife had died. And he said, "Oh, we have activity. My wife says we have activity downstairs in that bedroom." So I went down there. The kid was asleep in the room, so I stuck the camera through the door, took a bit of footage, came back out, and I noticed this light come across the room straight at me. But when I paused it on the first frame, there was a silhouette of a woman. And I turned the camera to him and went, "Do you recognise that woman?" And his face was just a picture.
Yeah.
He went, "My wife."
But there's always somebody that wants to poo-poo it. Like you said, there's always somebody that wants to poo-poo it. And like when you're watching news and there's an idiot in the back giving it this with fingers, you know what I mean? Bunny ears.
You know, I gotta. All this talk about this. I mean,
Hi, Nicola.
I dealt with something like this a few years ago, and Lois and Bri, I told you guys about it. You know, before you remember when I told you guys about that whole exorcism that I witnessed a few years back. I had somebody who literally just wanted to say that it was not possible. Like, you know, just given all the familiar, you know, rants and whatnot. And I think I came to that realization that, like what you just said, Wayne, is that yes, people are not going to believe you, you know, for certain things that happen, but even more stressful, even if you do film or record it or photograph it, you're still going to have people that are just going to say, no, you're out of your mind. So record it or not, you're always going to have those kind of skeptics.
Yeah.
Terry says people often come because they're questioning their own mind, and events could be more entertainment seen as a good night out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always good when you actually convince a skeptic, though, because it's just the look on their faces.
I know.
We did have that. One of the three guests that were with us at Kelvin and Hatch, he was skeptic, and when we were doing our vigil in the computer room, one of my team members had placed a dictaphone on top of a filing cabinet just outside the door of the room we were in. But this room had windows all along the front of it that overlooked the computer room. So if anybody else had come in off the stairwell and gone into that area, we would have seen them. Nobody had entered that floor apart from the four of us that were sitting in this room. We did the dowsing rods. We got in contact with this guy called George. We allowed him to move on. When we'd finished, everything changed. Again, everything had changed in there. So our team member, Mick, went out, got the dictaphone, came back in, started replaying it. And you can hear us talking in the background about letting George move on. And then all of a sudden you hear this voice, clear as a whistle, into the microphone of the dictaphone, says, okay.
Oh my God.
Someone stood in front of that dictaphone and said, okay. And it's ended up on our episode of the Truth Beyond Paranormal.
Wow.
And it dumbfounded.
Wow.
When we got back to everybody knew where we were, because there was only one other team and they were on the lower floor of the bunker. So, of course, we're standing there going, we're all in the room. You can hear us all talking, yet someone had stood right in front of the dictaphone and said, okay. We would have seen them come into that area and stood there and said that. Yeah. And we've got it on video footage. So,
sorry, I was laughing at Andrew's comment. My husband was a skeptic before he died. He's not now. He believes.
Oh, jeez.
That's the way for a skeptic to find out.
One of the funny things, I shot someone down really quickly because one person had said, he doesn't believe in ghosts. So I turned around, I knew this person and I knew he was religious. And he was deeply religious. And I turned around to him and I said, you're a hypocrite. And he went, why? I said, because you believe in God. And he went, yeah. I said, so if you believe in God, you have got to believe in ghosts. There's no 100. It's 100%. You've got to believe in ghosts, because if not, you don't believe in God. And he went, but I do believe in God, and I don't believe in ghosts. I said, so what you're telling me then is the Bible is full of lies.
Yeah.
And he went, why? I said, because Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit, Spirit or Ghost is mentioned 355 times in the Old and New Testament. So you're telling me that you read past those words. God's word is gospel. So therefore you have to believe in ghosts and spirits.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what to do with himself. I blew him out the water and he was like, oh. I said, you can believe in God, but you've got to believe in ghosts. You can believe in ghosts, but not in God.
Yeah, there's quite a big chunk of the paranormal mentioned in the Bible as well. So
do you know, I've never ever looked at it like that, when obviously, until you've said that. Is actually quite a good point.
It does work that way. You can believe in ghosts, all day long. You don't have to believe in one specific God. And there is now a popular train of thought, which myself and Mark Manley talk about quite regularly on the Dark Mirror radio show, that if you look at all of these religions that are out there, even the ancient ones, they all roughly have the same timeline.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of things that we don't know, like the Book of Enoch, which was removed and hidden out the way because of what it contained.
Yeah.
And it contained things like Moses' grandfather, who lived to be 350 years old when he ascended to the heavens in a golden chariot.
Yeah.
He didn't
Same
physically
as
die, and he was 350 years old.
Catholic faith.
Wow.
It was known the Catholics were about before it became a religion.
Yeah.
So
You've got things like that, and then that adds fuel to the fire about things like the Anunnaki and the Nephilim. The Anunnaki came to Earth, created human beings, but some of the Anunnaki fell in love with human beings, and as a result of that, the Nephilim came along, and through the process of evolution, the human being became what we are now.
Yeah.
And we've noticed that some of these large skeletons that have been found, like one in China, has mysteriously disappeared to the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian gets their hands on a lot of things and it all vanishes.
Yeah. See, but that Vatican gets it.
The last known living giant, I think, was Russian. And it's not that long ago, actually.
And Nettie says exactly, the Bible's only left with what they want you to know. The removed books tell a different account. Do you know what? I believe that the will probably be. And do you know what always memorises me? Is when my partner, he sits and watches random things on YouTube, and we like to watch flat earthers, right? I'm not going to say I understand the whole concept, right, or the big terminologies or things like that, but it all just makes me laugh when I see the flat earthers and I listen and I'm thinking to myself, do you really believe that? And then I say to myself, what happens, right, for talking's sake, right, when we die, right? I have a big belief that we've got parallel universes. I don't believe in heaven and hell, right? But what happens if when we die we discover that the Earth's not even a globe or flat? What if it was a triangle or a square and you've been arguing for fucking millions of years that it's flat or is it round? It's like, what the actual fuck?
I've got a few mates in the Navy that, have said they've never come to a corner or an end.
I was going to say, I've flown all over the world, and I've never seen an ice wall. But the problem there is it's all the belief system, and that's all religions are, is a belief system which teaches you a way of life, a way to conduct yourself for yourself and to others. But it's in a sense, it's all a form of control. But when you're led to believe that the Bible is the word of God, so it must be believed, how does that give James I the right to put witches into the Bible?
Yeah.
He altered it.
The thing is, the Bible's not the word of God. It's several people's stories of what they witnessed.
It's just basically an early Hans Christian Andersen book.
Well, they might have been
like I've mentioned before, back in the day, there was only 2% of population that could read and write. So you had their interpretation of anything that happened because they couldn't be, that 2% couldn't be involved in all these fables that came along. So it's Chinese whispers at the end of the day. So you can take 2% of anything. But you can't take it as written or as read, the whole thing.
I'll give you a wicked story that happened to me when I was in primary school. So for Nick, it was probably about the 5th or 6th grade, I reckon.
Yeah.
Around that, I think. I don't know. Because we've adopted your grade system. We've got year 1 through to year 11 or whatever it is. And I think I was about 9 or 10 at the time. So I don't know what grade in school that would be for you guys. But we had to do a book project. And I was like a social outcast in my class. So all the kids had taken the books. And all that was left on this trolley was the Bible. The teacher turned around and said, "It's all right. You can change it if you like." And I was angry. So I said, "No, it's all right. I'll read it." We had the half-term holiday. So I read it from front to back. And then I wrote a 15-page essay on what a load of rubbish it was.
Yeah.
And I used points. Like, where are the dinosaurs mentioned? If Adam and Eve had Cain and Abel, then they committed incest to continue the human race from there, which is illegal. So that don't make sense.
Yeah.
There's not enough water on the planet, including melting the ice caps, for it to flood everywhere. And it got handed in, and I got suspended for 3 days from school.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
Was it a Catholic?
The headmaster was very religious. I don't know whether he was Catholic, but he was very religious, and he didn't like the fact that I'd written a 15-page essay on what a load of garbage the Bible was. But
I've been reading up on the Guinness Remove part, and it's very interesting. Richard, hi Richard. I'm protesting the church on Sunday. Really bad people who use King James to discriminate against people they don't like. And Nettie says they do not want people to be able to read it. They want to wield that power over people and just go to them and accept what was said. I mention this way like time for time. I don't know if you guys have ever watched a documentary about a documentary a guy does about religion. It's a guy called Bill Maher, and the documentary is called Religiousness. And I was crying with laughter from the beginning to the end because this guy is so hated in America. And the scene that always sticks in my head is he goes to this trailer. They have, you can back me up in this, Nick, is that they have trailers like moving churches, like a trailer that moves. It's like
it's like a kind of like a church bus, as they sometimes would call it. It's a
mobile church.
I can't remember the actual name of it, but it's like
I can't remember that myself.
Yeah,
and it goes on, and obviously there's a bunch of people sitting, and he says to them, obviously, he asks questions about the Bible, and one guy gets up and says, "No, I'm not having you question my God." So he left. And he just asked questions, things like, well, you seen Jesus as a baby, and you seen him as an adult. Where was he in his teenage years?
Yeah.
And people were starting to quite get ratty. But the one guy that really stood out to me was what he classes himself as a Satanist priest. And he says all the drugs and the amount of women he's had and he's slept with and that. And it was the after scene that made me laugh because Bill said, "Why would you give all that up?" He says, "I said this place." He says, "All the amount of money and the drugs." He says, and they gave it up for religion. And it was just the documentary is so funny, but I like how he goes about any challenges. And he's like a stand-up comedian. He takes a piss out of religion all the time.
And so would I. But regarding the one that you mentioned, where was Jesus in his teenage years? Apparently, in one of the books, Wandering the Deserts. That's what he did for a lot of years.
No, he was sitting getting stoned. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, wandering the desert.
He wasn't. He was on a youth training scheme, learning his trade.
And he was on drinking White Lightning in the bus shelters at weekends.
He was learning how to walk on water and multiply fishes. So basically, he went to the magic circle and became a trainee magician.
Exactly.
Because we've got the magician. Dynamo the magician? He did a tour when he went to Africa and he showed the children they had an empty bucket and he tipped the bucket up and half a dozen fish fell out. Yeah. He then tipped one fish up, put it back in the bucket, shook it around a little bit, tipped it up, and hundreds of fish fell out. So if that is an illusion, and that's a magic trick, who's to say that some person all those years ago didn't do the same trick?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's possible in the book, Ben. But oh my God, it's just like one of the things that you do question and you do pick holes in. Like, I think really when it was after I lost my papa. In fact, it was even before that I started to question because I was like. And I said this one night, I can't remember if I said it live or I was talking to my friend, but what I said was basically like people look at Satanism as a bad thing and they put it down and mock it and everything else. But I'm like, when you look at it in one scale, God's killed a lot more people than what Lucifer has.
Oh, everyone on earth being fought for religion. Of one form or another, so yeah, definitely. Yeah, religion is not a good thing, really.
No.
I mean, my next-door neighbours, fantastic, absolutely brilliant people. They look after me, especially since I've had health problems and that. They've been fantastic. But what can I say? The Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. So I can only talk on a certain level. I cannot talk religion because they won't have it. It's like, okay.
Just look at the stuff do now. Back then, if you did it, people would think you're a god. That's true. That is true.
I mean, one of the things that I did notice, which I mentioned, I think it was last week or the week before on the Dark Mirror, was that when you look at all of the religious texts all around the world, old and new religions, there is no mention whatsoever as to how pyramids of similar build are found in all four corners of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And the hieroglyphics all roughly the same. They're all identical. There's cave paintings that are thousands of years old that depict helicopters, spaceships, men wearing crash helmets like the goldfish bowls. You know, and these are carbon dated to be thousands of years old, and yet the Bibles of all the religions do not mention them once.
Yeah, me and Luke were on about that other week. They found coconuts that contain fruit acid residue, and when they put them together with a copper element, they're basically a battery.
Yeah. I found a 5,000-year-old nuclear reactor as well.
Yeah.
Well, there was another thing. I mean, this is we're into my subject at the moment because we do conspiracy theories and stuff like that on
I love that.
The Dark Mirror. And we've noticed there's a place in India where they were digging foundations for it was either a village or a hotel complex that was being built. And they dug down to a certain level, which technically would have dated back 4,000 years. And they hit radioactive earth. And they said when they'd obviously evacuated the area, they got the special hazmat teams in, they came in and take soil samples away. And they said that the levels that have come back are sort of pretty much the same sort of soil samples you would have received after a nuclear fallout.
Didn't they coincide with reports of what they call Gabriel's horn?
Yeah,
I think, yeah, most of the stories, Gabriel's Home, which again, it's a person's depiction of things back then. They couldn't even fathom what they were watching, I suppose. So they
Well,
had to
if
put
you-
things in their own terms.
the problem is when you look at I'm not too sure whether it was the Hindu text or one of the other similar religions of that area, but it actually states in one of their texts that the gods had a war.
Yeah,
They
Yeah.
fired their own weapons against each other. So
which Gabriel's Home was one. Yeah,
could that have been the fallout from one such weapon? But then they
Yeah.
found depleted uranium in Siberia. Again, carbon dated to before humans were around.
Yeah.
But
The reason we have
depleted uranium is a man-made substance. Uranium isn't, but depleted uranium is. Only a process can make that, and we're the only ones that have made it. So how did depleted uranium get in Siberia underground all those years ago?
well, we're the only ones that made it to our account.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately,
But now there's
mankind-
rumours that with
mankind
disclosure.
is the only one that we're the all-seeing being. You know what I mean? We're the ones that rule the world. So no, we was given this technology. We've been given this intelligence, but we seem to think that we're the only ones out there with intelligence.
That is one of the biggest bugbears I found when people turn around and say, "Oh, that there's just us," and I'm like, "Hang on a minute! If you look at the sky and you just pick up a cube of glass and point it up at the sky, and you look at all those different lights that you see in that square,
Yeah,
that is a
that's true.
possibility of millions of possible planets. And if
Exactly.
any one of those planets is close enough to a sun, which is what they class as the Goldilocks zone."
Mm-hmm.
You can have life. All it needs is water, like Mars did, and it still does. So we know that Mars did have life on it, but the planet died out pretty quick.
Carbon-based life. Carbon-based life.
Yeah, but if you've
more
got that planet in the Goldilocks zone, you've got life. We had dinosaurs here, but all it would have taken was for the dinosaurs to have died out 1 million years earlier, and our evolution would have started earlier. So who's to say that on another planet in a Goldilocks zone, their life didn't start 10,000 years before ours?
Exactly.
Then 10,000 years more advanced than us.
I've always believed that yeah, I've always believed that they've probably been. I mean, for these other planets out there that could have that advanced life and technology and whatnot, I have always truly believed that they've certainly been around much longer than we have.
I must admit, I just would love to go in their spaceship just to have a shot. What does this button do? we had this conversation one night, me, Viv, and Dan, and I think the question was along the lines, what would you do if you were adopted? And I said the first thing I would do is like, can I play with your spaceship?
Lois, so don't worry.
Would it?
Listen, you motherfucker! I would adopt you, and then I would fucking alien probe you, you prick.
I was going to say it would be a case of what would you do? What is the first thing you would do after you've been probed?
Oh my god! No. As long as I was knocked out for that shit.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any shit involved after you've been probed.
Just what I'm like fucking John Wayne, but never mind.
I've always said I'd like to go round to the dark side of the moon to see what's really there. You might find there is the rumor that the Chinese have already built bases on the dark side of the moon. That the NASA sent 3 more Apollo missions up to the moon after Apollo 17 ended, and they've got bases up there. There's whether you believe the photos or not, they have found structures on the moon. They've found pipes on the moon.
Yeah.
Nowhere near the landing sites.
And
So
it's fascinating to know that. I mean, not only because it's almost similar to like what we're seeing right now where we're trying to colonize Mars. It's the same thing too. They're trying to colonize the moon as well.
The problem I've got is who's saying these things. As I've said, as I mentioned earlier about AI, people generate these ideas and put ideas in people's heads, and we run with it because it's so fanciful. It's exciting, isn't it? You know what I mean? So but is it true? Isn't it true? We'll never know unless we actually go a study.
The problem is we're on a world where we're trying to combat disinformation.
Yeah.
We are being told one thing and yet we're told another. You know, now we're being told it's all right for Nick because Nick doesn't have to pay council tax because you're lucky. But there is a way that we can get out of paying council tax.
Yeah.
There are ways of getting through things because of common law rather than...
She's in the wrong country, woman. Since when has he been a UK resident?
Well, since me and Nick are going to go to North Carolina, and then he's going to become a Scottish resident. I'm like, you, Nick.
Hang on, if you're going to go to North Carolina, you'll become an American, not Nick become Scottish.
Yeah, exactly.
No, there's a reason, right? Because this is a running joke between me and Nick, guys. Right, we were talking about strangest laws, and I went off and I looked up some of the strangest laws, right? And some of the strangest laws abroad are just so fucked up, it's unreal. And it was in North Carolina, right? So, say me and Nick were having an affair, right? And we went and booked a date.
We'll get you help.
Is this that sort of show, is it?
So we go and book into, say, a hotel, right? And Nick doesn't want to tell anybody about me, which is fair enough. That's fine. I respect that shit.
We can understand.
So he puts it under Mr. and Mrs. Millay, right? So in North Carolina, if you do that shit, that shows technically married. It's fucked up, Wayne. You need to check it out. It's fucked up.
You've been watching programs about going to Las Vegas and getting married in the Chapel of Love by Elvis Presley, haven't you?
Don't let her buy you any drinks while she's over there.
I'm going to put laxatives in yours, Ian. Right, guys, I'm going to run through the comments now. The phrase stuff for little children and then comes to me, says it all. And reset. See Nick's laugh, it makes me laugh. The reason we have no aliens is the Earth is moving about 300,000 miles a day through the universe. And it says, nothing we have is new technology. It's just recycled at certain points in time. Next laughter's putting me off. I don't think that aliens are carbon. Eric says there's two and that have possible life now that we find the solar system now.
Yeah.
Robert says all the water we have on Earth is all there has ever been. We're drinking dinosaur tea.
Yeah.
And then it says, no, I don't want a probe in some wrong places near there. Trust me. Laurie says, well done, Brian. Good point there. And then it says, aliens must be a bit kinky. They seem to do it to everyone they meet. They're swingers.
So does Lois.
Hi, Linda. Where the new to get that finger right in the middle of the camera for that asshole? No, I'm talking about
that's about the same size as the probe, isn't it?
Yeah. That is a
That's
probe.
what she said. Is this a fair or are you stalking? I'm always stalking, Nick, he knows it. Lois, oh my
I think Nick's
but
hung
yeah.
off.
I bet when you wished you never came tonight, I bet you're like, I wished I'd told Lois no.
This is the sort of thing I do every Monday night on the Dark Mirror Radio show. We start off with a subject, and then someone.
You're right, you're having a hot flush, Nicholas.
Yeah, I'm fine.
But most of the time, mate, Lois can't remember what the subject is.
Yeah, well, we start off with a subject, and we could be talking about Project Blue Book, and then all of a sudden we go talking about the price of frozen peas.
Yeah.
How did we get to this?
I was about to ask the same question.
Yeah. It's how the conversation evolves, and I mean, one time we started talking about the government, someone switched off our comments. No one could comment on our live feed, and when we looked into it, Mark hadn't said it properly, so it stopped at 300 comments.
Exactly.
So we're like, okay,
we'll
just let them think that the government has called it quits on there. Just leave it at that. It just goes off at random, and we're just like, you know, 1 minute you could talk about Ronald Reagan and the Star Wars program,
Yeah,
and then next minute we're talking about the price of a newspaper.
Do you know?
Like, hang on, where have we gone from Ronald Reagan to newspapers? Somewhere along the line, there's got to be a link there.
Do you know, me and Jacqueline did that one night. There was me, Jacqueline, and Vaughn, and I can't mind who else was with us, and we were talking all right. And then the next time it became the fucking food channel. We were sitting talking about food like for 20 minutes, and it wasn't even just like British food, it was everywhere. Have you tried sushi? What do you suggest for the recipe for this? And it turned into carnage, and it was so funny. And you were trying to bring it back round, but then somehow,
Yeah.
this ingredient in. Oh my god! And I was like, I love shows like that, but as I said, it's good.
Can you imagine the confusion if someone actually logged on and they went on to this live show and they were going, oh, yes, well, there was a sighting in 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico. And they go, oh, well, I've heard about that. So I'll come out, and they go and look on something else. And then they come back and they go, put it in the oven for 220 degrees centigrade for the next 1 hour. How did you get there? 1 minute you're talking about aliens in Roswell, New Mexico, and now all of a sudden you're talking about roasting a chicken.
That's precisely it. Yeah, ask Nick about the vampire alien cows.
Oh no, here we go again with that.
Have you got your laser sorted out?
Oh, wow.
Something's affected my Google Nest. Look.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Maybe that's because you were talking about roasting a chicken.
Yeah. The government's listening in.
The government's.
Yeah, they're listening in.
But don't you find, guys, right, when you could be looking up something or anything, you know, like, take for example, like, don't know, a pair of shoes for you guys or something, or a holiday, that suddenly it keeps coming up in your Facebook. Like, you've not been looking on Facebook, but suddenly you'll get.
AI is the algorithm is taking note.
If you've got a smart TV,
So the men in black will be here in a minute.
If you've got a smart TV, I heard this and I tried it out, but if you have it off for periods of time, it's on and listens into, but the screen goes slightly blue. And then if you say nothing to hear here, and it's switched off again.
I can't have a smart TV here. My son destroys them all.
Oh, wait.
Oh, geez.
I shouldn't laugh, But I read your post and I shouldn't have laughed, but I was in stitches.
Yeah, since November last year, we have gone through 5 widescreen TVs.
Oh my God!
My youngest son, Freddie, likes to throw his drinks bottles at them.
Yeah.
And if it's not throw the drinks bottles, it's empty the drinks bottles on them. While still on. So we've now I'm waiting to do a tip run, taking a load of rubbish to the tip from when we first moved in, and we've been renovating different bits, and I've got a load of stuff to take up to the tip. And outside, currently sitting on our driveway, is 4 TVs, and I'm hoping some idiot thinks they're actually decent tellies and takes them for me. You never know. Unfortunately, where I live, they're quite, bit snobby. They're a bit posh. You could leave a TV right next to the footpath, and no one will batter an eyelid.
Wayne, have you thought about putting a perspex screen in front of it?
This is what we're going to do when we get our new one within the next week or so. I am putting it up in the corner, up in the corner of the room on a shelf, and there is going to be a perspex sheet put right way across the front of it. So when Fred decides to practice his baseball pitch, he's not going to get that TV.
Exactly. It's a good
bulletproof glass would probably be a better option.
I'm thinking.
On electric fence.
I'm thinking of sending him over to Canada and go to the Toronto Blue Jays Academy. He would make a very good pitcher for the Blue Jays, I think.
I think so.
He probably would. But thank you so much, Wayne, for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. We need to have you on again with Mark, because it would be great to have you two together and
anytime
have a riot. But
I know one thing. This is one thing that never happens with us. We say to ourselves, right, Dark Mirror Radio show from 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock. That's it. midnight, we're still live.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, Wayne, do you want to tell guys where they'll find you?
I'm here.
At his house, Lois. Where else?
I'm here in my kitchen. I'm not saying anything else. I don't want 500,000 people turning up at my front door.
I'm in the bedroom.
I haven't got enough coffee and milk for that many people. I've got plenty of tea bags, though.
Oh, well, I'll come for tea.
I've got enough tea bags to give half the British military, so we're all right for tea bags. Well, I have the Truth Beyond Paranormal Facebook page, Spookinori Events Limited's Facebook page as well. I also have, obviously, my profile, and then I have Wayne Seden Presents Spookinori, which is my book side of me and Facebook, where I sort of post all me book stuff and updates on me books that are coming out and so on and so forth, along with little competitions that I do as well, like getting your name into the next story.
Hello.
Which seems to be quite popular. I do, when I'm finished one book and I've published it, I then bring out another one, start writing the next one. And what I always do is a live raffle. And anybody that wants to join, I put a post up, they write their name and age in the comments. And then I do usually leave it for about a week. I put all their names in a hat and I will draw a male and a female name to become characters in the next story. So a lot of people quite like that idea.
Check that out, guys. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the books themselves, they're available on Amazon. So all you need to all you need to do is just put Spookinori in on Amazon, and it'll come up. They're available all over the world, but it seems to be in America they're popular on Kindle. I have sold a few normal paperback copies over there, but most of them have been on Kindle. And I've far and wide, they've gone as far as Australia and South Africa. So, but I also sell them myself as well, which is a good thing that Amazon have put in their deal, that I can buy books off of them at the printer's price, and I can sell them myself, which I do. But I sign them and I put a Spookanori bookmark in there as well.
Oh, nice.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
That's really cool.
And
Guys,
I have
don't you
started
go
doing merchandise as well. I do Spookanori mugs as well now. So
I've seen them, guys. I've seen them. They're cracking. I definitely.
not literally cracking. They're no good as mugs then.
Bri, don't forget to dress next time, Eric says. Well, guys, you don't have to wait long, because tomorrow night we are going to be joined by Jason Boyd, and I'm so excited for this one because this guy's literally my hero. So I'm looking forward to this, definitely. Bri, just don't forget and get up. What Nettie wants to see is your body.
Well, I don't know about Bri getting up. You're the one that's always in bed every week.
Listen, asshole! My sister takes up the goddamn living room. I don't have a living room. I only have See what I've got to put up with, Wayne? You wonder why I'm stressed?
Yeah,
well,
I got to put up with this too, though.
If you let your sister turn the rest of the house into a nightclub, then there's something wrong there. You know.
We're not even going
Now, it does explain, if that's the case, if she's turned it into a nightclub, it explains the red light the other week you had.
No, I just put that on for you for a signal.
Well, I thought you were offering yourself a business.
Oh, motherfucker! I'm going to get you a kick right in the fucking stones.
What she doesn't tell you is when she went downstairs to make a cup of tea, there was someone in there asking for ID at the same time.
Well, you're in trouble.
See what I'm going to put up? I'm outran by bitches.
No, just
Yeah,
comedians.
you made us this way. We're only fighting back.
Eric says that's what they do mean, Lois. Oh well. Don't tell everybody. I don't want my night job getting it. See, everybody have a good weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow night, 12 a.m. guys.
Bye.
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 Bye.